Hi, and welcome to Alicia Woodford's Resource Vibe. This is your directory for master spiritual healing, guidance, and business resources. It is truly a pleasure for me to introduce you to our guest today, Cathleen Miller. She is an internationally acclaimed Master Intuitive Facilitator, multidimensional channel on the spectrum, ADHD, neurodivergent. She's a telepathic healer and a part of our galactic ground crew. I would say a leader. Kathleen has empowered thousands of people worldwide since 2002 when she founded Intuitive Lifestyle Success. Kathleen's soul path is facilitating conscious ascension support for the collective awakening into source embodied living. I first connected with Kathleen in 2013, and immediately in the first session, she tuned into my path and saw the books I wrote that I was going to be writing and that I did write since then. Also, the programs that I created. And this was before I created or even knew I was going to create core emotional healing. She immediately saw that I was going to have this interactive online program for emotional healing. And I wasn't even doing emotional healing at that time. Kathleen is extremely gifted. And every session I've had with her, she has gone into all kinds of levels and realms and past and present and future. And she just has so many gifts. And I feel when I connect with her, her energy is like reminding me of my power and who I am. And I quickly shift into that. No matter what the interference or the source of it is, she gets to it, clears it, and it's a pretty fast, immediate shift in all of the sessions, including a recent one I just had last week. I had actually contacted Kathleen because I was having these experiences where I couldn't settle into my new life, and it was like I was still in my old timeline, or the old timeline was interfering with my new timeline, and I just couldn't be settled within myself. And I had a lot of challenges with that. And so I contacted Kathleen for a session, and it was just all these quick, clear reminders. And since that session, I am completely grounded and settled in my new life, and any of those longings or missing that I was experiences, it kind of was like flashbacks of my old life that was keeping me in the longing and missing is completely gone. And I have been appreciating everything about my life now, and in the session immediately felt in my power. So Kathleen is incredibly powerful and clear to help all of us. It is truly an honor to have you here on the Resource Vibe. Kathleen Miller, welcome.
Thank you so much, Alicia. Such a gift. And oh my gosh, you just blew my mind with the 13 years. That was wild. I was like, yeah, but so wonderful. So it's such an honor to be here, being part of this with you and just sharing the journey together. It's been so exciting to see all you've created and just the wonderful work that you're doing as well. So
Thank
yeah.
you. Thank you for supporting me in important times when I needed it
Yeah,
throughout
absolutely.
all of the creations and transitions
Yeah.
that I was going through. Yeah. So to begin, I'd love for you to explain all the areas that you cover in a session.
Sure.
It's so
Wow. That's a big question.
well, I
Well,
asked that because you have such a vast,
yeah.
I don't know how to explain it.
It's been the greatest challenge in a way because it's such a large realm that I work with. When people even say, "What do you do? How do you do it? What's in a session?" Even and many go and they read a lot on the site and they're like, "Wow, there's so much. What do we even do?" So I think really it's the important thing is because of being a medium and a channel, I'm able to tune in to what someone's desiring to work on, whether it's business, personal, their body. And oftentimes I'm very open to what people are wanting to work on, but I also start getting downloads as soon as we're talking of, wow, you really need to take care of this health issue, or let's back up to some childhood unresolved. And so even though somebody might be talking about business and they're in a legal entanglement, it's about them being very unresolved from the child wounds. It doesn't always look like a very linear method, but I mean, I've done this and have done tens of thousands of sessions over the past few decades that I've learned to kind of trust the flow and what shows up and how it evolves. And yet it's I've never had the same session twice. So for some people, it's very counseling, coaching, pragmatic business awareness. And for others, it's very much just straight energy work and so much that needs to be flushed, entity clearing. It can be, a lot of timeline entanglement with others. And certainly getting other people out of your field. Like what you were saying from our session last week, it was, people not the healthiest energy still entangled in your energy, that once those get out, you don't have the psychic kind of residue from that anymore. And it's very powerful when that's clear, because all of a sudden you're like, oh, there I am. And that's how we should be. And yet it can be a bit more complex to go and find that.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing. And while you were talking, I remembered a lot of other sessions. Yeah, I would talk about something and said, "Oh, well, it's this person in a past life." So you have access to just so much of like what's
Mm,
happening now. Also,
right.
like the sources of all of it. I mean, in one session 12 years ago, there was some interference with EMF for me, and you helped my system to not get so affected by it.
Hmm.
So it's like
Hmm.
that's what I mean, there's so it's so vast what you do, all that you have access to.
Mm. Well, and think about now, 12 years later, how much higher Wi-Fi, stronger the waves, higher high def. And that's something that I'm very passionate because of my sensitivity to it in that magnetic and electrical. And I'm so being autistic and on the spectrum, so highly sensitive to that myself that I'm very aware of it being imbalanced in others. And that's sort of that energetic hygiene that part of why I do this work is because how difficult it was for me to be in the world as a child and, you know, my whole life really, but wanting to help other sensitives with that so that they didn't have to be at the brunt of it. They had kind of tools and support in it.
Yeah, that's something else that you helped me with, and I'm sure that whatever you did to help me with not taking on all the EMFs at that
Woo!
point
Yeah.
probably helped me so much over the
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
13 years,
Yeah.
because you helped my system to not be so affected. You also were the first one that helped me with clearing energy, other people's energy. So I was already working with clients
Mhm.
13 years ago, and I was having a lot of symptoms, and you picked up that I may not be clearing my clients' energies.
Yeah.
And you taught me a very simple thing to do. And I did that for a very long time until my system didn't need me to do that every time. Yeah. So you are great at clearing energies to stay in our power in
Well,
all ways. Yeah.
absolutely. And those entanglements are so insidious sometimes where people go, "Oh yeah, I know energy. I'm clear." And I can even do it myself where I know this inside out and I still catch little entanglements that are these little drains for each of us, or we're just not as, we're not filtering to our max capacity. So I'm very much about, very efficient energy, very clear energy. And especially with some of the darker clearing work that I do, I'm very no nonsense with interference, and so really moving in that way, and having such a strong channel, we just need that to be in the world today. I mean, this is,
Yeah.
and for empaths, that sensitivity to the Wi-Fi, to all the unnatural synthetic everything in the world, it's, this knowledge is not woo out there stuff. This is really very basic 101 like wellness, and it will be in the future. The light, the sound, all that's coming into play as the acknowledgement of that scientifically is being finally documented and deemed valuable. But this further advanced subtlety of vibration to me is all the difference in the world, not just for your immunity, because it's your energetic immunity, but for really staying ahead of the mind control and really staying ahead of a lot more insidious kind of programming that is falling apart, luckily, in the globe. But we also have to kind of move it out of our systems as well. And that's part of that ascension journey.
Yeah, so that's a great way of describing what you do, actually, the energetic vibrational wellness.
Yes.
Yes, that's what you do. And so how did you come into these
I
gifts?
was born wide open. So I basically came in purposely open because this was my path. But in doing that, part of the challenge was being a sieve to a lot of unconsciousness and a lot of not great experiences. I had a lot of trauma young. I had a lot of very toxic environments, energies, experiences. I think this is not uncommon with a lot of starseeds is they have like a lot of hardcore challenge earlier in their life. So then they have their midlife to kind of like heal and do a lot of work to kind of unwind that. And then they kind of move into the world to help facilitate with others, whatever that realm may be, nutritional, counseling, etc. So that work, it's very challenging. And yet part of when you do come out the other side, one, you do have an advantage, I feel like, later in life, but it also is, it's part of the role in it. So for me, the first half of my life, I felt like it was all kind of coming at me. And then luckily, when I began to kind of move into it and move through the trauma, and I was very blessed meeting great influences young. I had some initial supports and just clung to different books and readings that I found. And I just really had a more unseen, like the unseen was more real to me because of being so psychic so young. So I really had guides and supports very, very young that to me kind of helped me to get through the center of it, to get out to the other side, to be able to then turn and teach and facilitate and bring it into the world.
What are your clair senses? Do you have
I
all of
have
them?
I have everything. I think the strongest for me is the claircognizance. It's just instantaneous knowing. And I've luckily had just so much confirmation from everyone that there was no second guessing. It was just always confirmed. So I learned to trust and develop that stronger. But I do see, hear, feel, smell. I have had people bring me objects that I'm able to touch and get information about, what ceremony that Indian did with it and, different things. So just different ones there. And then, also grid capacity as well. When I go into different areas, being very aware of what's happening under the ground, global tectonic movement and different things as well.
I remember in my experience with you, you work with grids a lot and remind
Mhm.
me that I can as well. So it's like even
Yes.
just recently, I was like, oh yeah, the grid. Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And how important that is now. I mean, we're counterbalance all the star seeds on the planet, not only just waking up, but we're counterbalancing the like immense pressure for the transmutation that's happening. So it's happening internally in us, it's happening internally in the planet. And then we have these outer effects because we're in the anchoring of light for kind of the birth of the new earth that's here now, but the
Yeah.
transmutation of the tough stuff.
Yes. Can you explain what the grid is and how to work with it or
Yeah.
how you work with it?
Absolutely. Grids, I mean, basically the entire planet, there's grids everywhere. And if you think about, let's use the Bermuda Triangle. So I think most people know that reference. And in the center of there's a lot of ships that have gone down, planes that have gone down, their navigation goes out. So what happens there is the grid that normally covers, so you have your netting of all the electrical and magnetic waves that hold the grid in place for waves to electrical navigation to come through to be able to signal, those turn inward. So now the wave is gone, the signal's gone. And then, so this is basically a vortex that the signal gets lost. And so those tend to be like accelerated points. So this is stargates. This is Sedona is very different vortexes. And I've been very blessed to lead events and work with these around the world. And so I was even born outside of the Bermuda Triangle. And so part of that work and even being born around that, which is part of starseeds being, part of your birth chart and your soul chart, is that you're kind of anchoring energy right off the bat with where you kind of come in. And that can be supporting very dynamic change. That can be part of very dynamic earth changes and work that we're really doing today. So for people at all different ages, wherever you came in, really looking at, those where you came in and what major energy lines are around you sometimes can be pretty revealing of what you may be here to do.
Oh, interesting. I haven't explored that yet. I was
Yeah.
born in Syracuse, New York. Uh,
Yeah.
no. So I wanted to also ask you about being on the spectrum, and then now neurodivergent is now, people are becoming aware of that and
Uh-huh.
identifying with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about myself like that, and I'm sure I am, and I know that I've always been ADHD. And so is there correlation between being on the spectrum, neurodivergent, and starseeds? And yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, and I've done some informal testing around it and definitely the sensory processing I was off the charts in, and that's something that for a lot of autistic people, they're, changing clothes a lot, like stimuli for the nervous system is just gets overloaded relatively easy. And so this is where sadly when I grew up in the 70s, it was non-existent and I was just the weirdo that was too sensitive, too much, why people weren't seeing what I was seeing. And a lot of all the psychic information I was getting had nowhere to go. And so now having all of this come into pretty public education and mainstream now in the neurodivergence, it's just all of this. Oh, that's what it was. That's what it was. That's what it was. And having the science kind of meet up with the energetics of that making sense. So for me, part of processing so much information in a millisecond and being able to go right to the awareness of timelines and all those energies, that is an autistic, actually high functioning capacity. And also attention to detail where when people are talking, and it's kind of ironic because in school, I was a horrible student. I didn't do well because I was in such psychic overload of what was happening. And I was aware of, my teacher was being abused at home and the kid street over hadn't eaten in a day and a half. And so I was so aware of like so much more that was really happening instead of learning about something completely irrelevant. to to what life was going to be. And so it's been actually quite comforting in a way because so much that I just there's so much pain in that because you're so misunderstood and you're so weird.
Yeah.
And I'm so used to being so different and such a
Mhm.
fish out of water with everything that I do that in a way it's been validating. Like, "Oh, okay." And it's also, to me, a lot of ADHD, you do have to manage it. For me, nutritionally, being stellar in my nutrition and stellar in my central nervous system care has been like a non negotiable to be able to stay grounded with it. Cause I think that's probably the fundamentals of a good foundational energetic support, which I know that's your whole world and a lot of the
Mhm.
work that you're doing is so easily overlooked because when that's not in place at a very strong foundation, I know I can get not good. And I can go from 0 to 100 pretty fast
Mm.
with overload of information and energies. And so as a kid, I would be in a place and I'd have to run out of group spaces. I had a hard time being at the mall. I had a hard time
Mhm.
being in open spaces with a lot of different energies. It took me decades to develop the energetic stabilization to be able to be comfortably in it, let alone, I mean, I've spoken in front of 10,000 people. So I've now to be able to do that and be anchored and working on people in public in front of people, it's like, wow, that's a long way for your nervous system to come to be able to do it. But it is possible. And that's my work and my message with the neurodivergent community of not, overly isolating, which I have done too,
Mm.
and being able to really help build tools to manage the anxiety, the overstimulation, and to be able to use the genius, because there's so much genius in it too. They're creatively, they move through the world so differently. And even when people have come in and looked at my business, they've looked at my life and they're like, how are you doing it?
Yeah.
And we're like the bumblebees. Like they don't know how we fly, but we just go. And so it's a different way to be in the world, but I've learned to really embrace it as it's a gift for the world too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the algorithm interrupt that's changing everything.
What is that?
Well, the algorithm interrupt doesn't let the control mechanisms take over. The
Mm.
algorithm interrupt stops that which is attempting to dominate.
What is the algorithm interrupt?
It's a beingness. When we are being an energy that refuses to be controlled, when we
Mhm.
are being an energy that is so different it can't be controlled. So think of binary code 00110000, and then neurodivergent is oranges, apples, love. Like there is no numbers. It's like that's the algorithm interrupt.
Would you describe neurodivergent people as algorithm interrupts?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And which is why and this is very interesting too, because isn't it interesting? There's an attempt to kind of control the autism and even like
Mhm.
the telepathy tapes and like, oh, this is an issue with this. And so part of that kind of rainbow spectrum, if you will, is this spectrum that's so different. It's being something so different, can't be controlled.
Yeah. Yeah.
So think of there's so much power in that, but when it's degraded, not acknowledged, like we need to control this, do this, it's very, very interesting. And the good news is now that, these systems of control are really collapsing more and more,
Mhm.
that this is part of the rising of this, which returns the inclusivity of everybody being however they are and not being actually celebrated and supported
Mhm.
in more of a unity consciousness, and instead of that being really a divider.
Yeah. So the control systems are they losing power? What's happening?
They're losing power. It's losing power, and this is part of these energies that have been coming in, the solar flares, the Three Eye Atlas, like all of these things that are coming in. They are bringing higher cosmic flows that are anchoring into the planet. So star seeds are here on ground. That's the ground crew anchoring that into the 5D grid in the planet. And so now that is elevating the collective, whether you're awake or not, unconscious or not. And so this is where people are now going, wait a minute, what's going on? Why is that? This is the uprising politically. This is the uprising socially. This is the uprising with all kinds of things being questioned that were never questioned, even years
Mhm.
ago, not questioned. Now it's really, the lids come off. And that's part of consciousness rising too, because it's got to kind of come up to get it. Like any sore, you got to like get it out to get it cleaned, to let it heal. And so part of our work is being that unwavering light that's connected. That's really the only job of the starseed is or even light workers, collective workers, because I know some people starseed they're a little wary of. But if you're an earth angel, if you're just wanting peace in the world, you
Mhm.
are relevant to be grounding light and really asking to, how do I stay grounded and also stay connected so I have discernment with how much nonsense is kind of waving its way out.
Yeah. Stay connected to ourselves.
Stay connected to the self, stay connected to the earth, because so
Mhm.
much of the synthetic stuff is to keep you ungrounded. And then also staying connected to source. So we're not looking for source and outside authority, news. This is part of the
Mhm.
sovereign knowing that's really within each of us. And it's that inner source self knowing of, yes, we're guided from a greater power, but we're also like coming into the power that we really are, which is part of that, the veil coming off too.
Yeah, like a light, like being in the center of a light beam that's connecting us to the divine and the earth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we are
And
the spark and the eternal flame, drip in the wave. I mean, it's in every element, it's in all of it. And also to get out of this is also lifting out of duality too. I think that's another super important point with this is the duality is all part of the matrix holding everybody in conflict too.
Hmm.
And so our work right now is how do we lift out of duality altogether where, it's not good, it's not bad. We all came to play good, bad roles, all of it. And let's like really complete all of our trauma
Hmm.
residues from all the lifetimes, but also the real friction of sides anymore
Yeah.
and getting to, unity consciousness is everybody's included, everybody matters. And with everybody's, aligned in this, so much more is created. And that's sort of the irony of it too, is people think, oh, if we go that way, then we'll really not have enough. But the duality is actually the lie of
Yes.
separation. When we go to unity consciousness and everybody's included, everything's there. So nobody goes without.
Yeah. What are some tips for people during this transitional time?
To me, if you're not 1,000% well, grounded, connected, happy, that's your work. Your fundamental before you even, the whole get happy and then
Yeah.
like really getting within the self. What do I need to physically feel healthy enough? Because for most people, they just don't have the energy. They're in
Mhm.
such survival mode. They're like, I can't handle one more thing. You're not really going to contribute if that's where you are. And that's not meant to be a judgment at all. It's just go there and take care of it. Get help, get support to get well. And then from there, really looking brutally honestly at your environments, your connections, what's outmoded. I mean, of course, 2025, this year has been about really shedding the skin, the death of the old self for many of us. And it's been brutal. I've moved, I'm divorcing, I'm like changing, I'm moving again. And so this has all been this like death of self, of who I've been and where I've been. And so it's this brutal shedding. And
Mhm.
yet it's part of clearing the slate to actually get to where we're meant to be too.
Yeah.
So wherever that is for listeners, because a lot of times we know we're like, yeah, we know what we're like, kicking under the rug or just not feeling the confidence to face something or to really change it. Because
Yeah.
people can talk themselves blue in the face. It's like when you are really ready to change it
Mhm.
and choose different, then the whole universe is going to come around to support you in that.
Yeah. So anywhere someone is not feeling in their power and clear, and they have this inkling of like, this isn't good for me, whatever it is, this relationship, this
Mhm.
place, this job, this way of the lifestyle, and they don't feel confident enough to make the change. Recognize when you need help is
Yeah.
when you don't feel the confidence. And I recommend you for people in those places.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Because I get help too. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not like I absolutely am all for coaching, support, body work, great supports and all of those. And I think, it's interesting where, what you put your money in, what you invest in is what you really believe in. And looking at the value. I've always invested in energy work
Hmm.
when and trainings and everything under the sun because I knew and this was decades ago where to me it's all the difference in the world for not only the development and the skill set I ultimately got to but also again staying ahead of the curve of not going in the undertow. Because I
Yeah.
think for a lot of empaths and a lot of neurodivergence and a lot of like sensitive people that are on the planet,
Mhm.
the overwhelm or the kind of hurt along the way in so many different ways, there's just this numbness and this shell that can unfortunately stunt growth and not let you kind of get to everything that you could get to if you choose it. And that's not wrong. It's not a judgment, but it is possible to change that and to be no matter where you've been or what you've gone through, we're not what we've experienced. We're what we're willing to.
I love that, what we're willing to be. Yeah, and so for anyone who knows they need to change and they can't and they don't, is it gonna be harder for them during this transitional time?
Well, what's happening now is that base of the collective energy going higher. Those who are doing their work, those who are even on a general level have some forward momentum, they're going to have an easier time. Still, it's
Mhm.
still going to be challenging. Even for us that are full on committed with it, it's challenging,
Yeah.
right? It's a
Yeah.
faster wave. It's a more intense balance to stay up. I always use the surfing analogy. And so, but if you've never surfed, you're out of shape and you're toxic and you go out and you think you're going to surf a big kahuna wave, you are out of your mind kidding that that's not going to turn you upside
Mhm,
down
mhm,
and you're going to have a hard time getting up. It's kind of
mhm,
similar. There is a stamina and an endurance energetically that is required to be able to keep up with this. And so for some, this is a lot on the nervous system. Some people, it's increased health challenges. For other
mhm,
people, it's the mental wellness. It's just too much. It's overload there. And so, it's similar to the full moon. When full moon comes and that magnetic pull happens, people who are out of balance go into crazy out of balance.
mhm.
People, it's like it'll push
Right.
into more of where you are.
Yeah.
And that's similar because we have magnetic waves, solar waves coming in. So we're more lit up. So think about an old wire. And I've seen this where an old wire, a home I had in Florida, and we had partially new wiring, partially old wiring. And I had plugged something in, which was a new appliance, and I saw it arc. Literally, like it just is
Oh,
the amount of the new charge in an old wire comes out of the wire literally and can electrocute you. So that to me was very scary, but it also shows like these increased energies. And if we're not upgrading our wires and our
mhm.
wiring, it is more intense and a lot on the body
Yeah.
and a lot on the being too. It's not just the physical. It's very much about the physical, but it's our being and our capacity to really handle all of that, which again, coming back to that groundedness, that self-stabilization, being in a really good open-hearted place, you're gonna be okay in that. So let that be the priority. And then from there, then you build.
Mhm. Yeah. Great. What other messages would be good for people to know? Like, one, as you were talking, came through for me is like, yes, it's hard. Okay. Like, the thing
Mhm.
you need to do is going to be
Yeah.
hard. And I'm relating to what you're going through right now that I
Yeah.
went through 3 years ago,
Uh-huh.
leaving my marriage, leaving my dream life and my house and splitting up my dogs. And it was hard. It was just hard. And many people just don't wanna go through it. But I also got support every step of the way. So I
Yeah.
think, like, yes, it's gonna be hard, and yes, you're gonna need support. What
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
messages do you have?
Absolutely. To me, it's a little bit of a dark night of soul, a little bit too, because
Mhm.
you're not. And I'm in that transition where the new door is opening, but I'm not quite through the threshold
Yeah.
yet, and still closing out. And I know that's part of the closeout, but it's intense. Not gonna lie, it's
Mhm.
been a kind of a brutal year. It's like a bad sunburn, and then you got to let all the skin kind of come off. Or you initially, you're gentle with yourself, but when it starts to really slough off, you're like, oh, new skin will come in. It's gonna be okay. It's a lot of faith. It's a lot of faith in
Mhm.
it. And I think I've heard this a lot from others. Part of, especially for me, I was in a situation for a long time, and it's this being very forgiving of the self and very gentle with the self. And we can all do this no matter what the issues are. Because to me, I think the greatest offense sometimes is the self, where we didn't trust, we didn't value, we didn't quite love ourselves. And then once you do step out, you realize how much that was. And
Yeah. Mhm.
so, and instead of pointing those fingers out, their fault, that, anybody's fault and all that, that just keeps you disempowered. But to move into like, okay, let me own this and be with this and love this to now have a different future. And I think that you cannot rush. It's a
Mhm.
very unique process individually, but no matter where you are, because I know for some people, this is career. They're in a career 30 years and then they leave a company and it's like rocks their whole world. For other people, it is a relationship or family transition. And then now in the US, just all the natural disasters. I've had tons of sessions with people who one storm, their home's gone. People that did get out of the fires, people that did get out of different situations or the floodings. So those are intense forced pivots. So that to me,
Yeah.
that's a divine detour too.
Mhm.
And it's very tempting to, follow into a lot of unhealthy energies from those, but to stay in, okay, if I trust that the universe, there was something about this that's getting me to a greater future, then, that to me opens up things you wouldn't hear or come across to help you get to a better place too.
Mhm.
And it's again intense, but that is the world that we're in. I mean, we're about
Yeah.
to go through global financial transition. We're about to go through ongoing, political disclosure, et cetera. And so the more we're tuned in and then clear on discernment of what of that is really relevant
Mhm.
and supportive for us, like how do we be an open-hearted light to invite benevolent leadership, to invite benevolent, new systems that are
Mhm.
really for the people and really for the good, and the more people that are united in that, the faster that's gonna set up.
Mhm. Yeah, so on a global level, there's been a lot of destruction for
Mhm.
us to rebuild, and the systems are
Yeah,
falling away. And
yeah,
so for us individually to see what we need to destroy in
yeah.
order to rebuild from an empowered place.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. And that's different for everybody. For some people it's changing location. You need to be in a different you need to live in a different place. It's the way you are in the world. And so trusting that small changes, but really the vibrational quality is important to remember the contribution to the planet and humanity that is. I think there's so much noise and there's so many loud alarms out there. Sometimes we can forget, oh, wait a minute, me just being happy and calm and sitting on the ground and being in nature, that is everything in this day to stabilize the entire planet
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's not an ego thing, that's for everybody. Think about millions of people just being in nature, being in appreciation, and taking a deep breath, breathing normally, feeling their feet. Whole world would change instantly.
Yeah. It's so true. Yeah. And the way to that is to see, where am I not happy?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then to go into with support to find out the sources of that. What's
yeah.
keeping you in that? What
Mhm.
needs to be clear? What choices, different choices you need to make?
And what lies of powerlessness too. I
Yeah.
find there's so many lies and programming but a lot of exposure to just, distorted energies that we buy into and
Mhm.
then duplicate that are, intense work. I came in with really challenging, and that was part of my soul chart. I think a lot of people get stuck on the wrongness of it instead of, hey, we choose tricky contrast because it is the greatest catapult if
Mhm.
we let it. If we don't get crushed by it,
Yeah.
we can kind of grind through and, become the diamond from it.
Mhm. Yeah. I know a lot of people in the US, especially, and friends of
Mhm.
mine, they experience a lot of hardship recently, and
Yeah.
financial struggles and health issues. There's tons of cancer with everyone I know, so many of my
Mhm.
friends.
Mhm.
What's going on for them and what could help them
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. Well, and it's unfortunate the level of toxicity, but also programming around disease is
Mhm.
quite rampant, especially in the United States. So it's something again to be vigilant of. And going back to what I was saying before, like when you're prioritizing your well-being, you're either going to be cleaning up or helping to minimize that as an issue. It's that's a tricky one to answer because it's such a big equation.
Yeah.
The cancer word is there are, of course, exposures we have. There's emotional, there's trauma, there's so many different factors. So a lot of times it's a bit of complexity, but when your intention is, hey, I intend to be well, I intend to be here, I intend to find a way through this and get to a greater future, I think that, really is going to put you in the highest probability to find what you need, no
Yeah.
matter where you are on that journey.
Yeah, great reminder to
Yeah.
have that intention. I intend to feel this way. I am feeling this way.
And to feel yourself well.
Yes. What about the financial struggles?
Yeah, the financial one's really fascinating, especially with the systems changing and really, in a way, it's such an outmoded system, but it's also the system's based on control too.
Mhm.
Even globally, it's based on creating class systems, creating these dynamics to stay in control too. To me, the gift of it is to go within and find an internal worth that has nothing to do with money. And something my guides have been saying for years, which drove me crazy initially, but now I'm starting to get it a bit. They say you need to create beyond money. And
Mm.
and I think what we're seeing now with sort of the intentional living and these intentional communities and people starting to the bartering and how do we create community where everything's included and everyone's cared for in? And again, that's that conscious unity system of how do we, really get to a place where everybody's taken care of. It's not really, I know everybody's going to cringe, but it's not really profit anymore. It's really about this support. Everybody's supported in it, and you can create all you want in it. It's
Mhm.
not okay. It's a system where everybody's in line to get a cup of something. It's like, no, it's kind of like a potluck where everybody comes in, then there's more food than anybody can have. And that we're all in a systems that are creating in more dynamic ways as this system does whatever it's going to do, because big systems already are changing. And then you've got some of these other control dynamics coming in with artificial intelligence that, again, is the more we're creating in a way that works for us and discerning about what to participate with and what to not, that's going to be really telling, but also inviting off-planetary benevolent
Mm.
technology that is
Mhm.
coming in and is here, but is coming into place so that those can turn systems on that are kind of going in this new direction. So it's wild because a lot of it's not here fully mainstream just yet. Will be. And so are healing technologies, by the way, too.
Mm.
So part of all of those coming in, and again, the more we're in that open-hearted, we're welcoming that, we're not in resistance to what is dying out, that's going to help again to speed up those creations and those models to kind of lift and come into tangible form.
I love that. So open up to the goodness in every way. So open it up to
Yeah.
the goodness in your life, what you value, what is worthy. It doesn't have to be financial, and also the goodness that's available to us and that's coming to us as well.
Yeah,
That can help us.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And the simplicity
Yeah.
too. I mean, I think I shared with you, I had over 3,000 square foot and now I'm living in barely 300 square feet. And so I
Mhm.
went to 10% of my living space. I went left 90% easily of my what the materials I had. And I feel better.
Yeah.
I have better energy. This living simply and really simplifying more your spending, because that's a really interesting component of
Mhm.
the energetics of spending, and the energetics of having are
Mhm.
very interesting to me.
Mhm.
So being able to kind of reevaluate that and really look at, how do I do all of this differently
Yeah.
and financially sovereign as well in
Mhm.
that.
Mhm. Yeah. What else? You mentioned AI. Do you wanna talk about that?
You know, actually, what I will say about AI, because this is relevant for star seeds, and this is part of why I'm asking to heal this with technology, is because I was Lemurian, but also Atlantean. There are millions of star seeds who were in the destructive downfall of the civilization of Atlantis. And that was from misuse of technology. So that
Mhm.
was from rampant control and dynamics, that a lot of power that was misused and ultimately was the demise of a civilization. So that is in the innate nervous system of a lot of millions of starseeds. And so part of the work with being able to, one, be like, okay, we're all part of our soul turret is coming back in now to replay it, to play it again in a new timeline, but also to not abuse,
Mhm.
not look the other way, and or be like, oh, I'm not going to be involved in that, to really stand up and be sovereign, like, okay, I'm going to be so different with this. and I'm going to be of integrity with this having a different possibility so the planet's not destroyed from it. Civilization is not at the mercy of it. And so this is now playing out in the higher, the ascended timeline of it. And so, as again, we stay in that space of open-hearted, the expectation for the benevolent technology to kind of be the override in it, that in and of itself is the eclipse that is really changing that. And it's happening. That is very on track.
So using AI is destroying the planet.
It's not bad because AI it's kind of like money. Like the dollar itself is not a bad thing. It's what are you doing with it? Where is it going? What is it? What's the agenda of it?
Right.
What is the intention behind it? And it's just so fascinating. It's such a big subject. And for me, I am very minimal with AI. I really don't use it. I've never used Siri. I've never used any of those. Like I don't add to it. And because I'm not for the monster data centers that are going up everywhere and taking water and taking land. The cost of that, to me, there's more unconsciousness than consciousness at the moment with it. So I'm very wary of that, but I also ask to kind of, how do I be tech minimal? Kind of, low tox, there's low tech. How do we become more low tech where we still need it? We're in a tech world, but we're also let's re-plug into where we can be telepathic, where we can move together, where we're not needing to tally because the integrity's there. It's not needing to surveil and track. Like we can be in a space of conscious flow that everything goes in. Do you see where there's like it's such a different world. And it's not to make technology wrong. That's not what I'm saying here in the extreme. It's how do we use it minimally in a way that is letting us be functional in the world for sure, but also be extraordinarily discerning of the rapid fire expansion of it and realizing that we have a voice in that.
Yeah. Good.
And instead of but bring it back into personal use too.
Yeah. And one question that is good to ask is this necessary? And this goes for anything,
Absolutely.
like anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anything
Yeah.
we purchase, money that we're spending, the technology that we're using.
Yeah.
Is this
Absolutely.
necessary? Because people are now just using it for fun and creating all these things just for fun. But is this necessary?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even, and not realizing too, so much of that on the body, because people between the watch, the like all the different pieces, just the mitochondrial dehydration alone, what is that costing your body? I mean, you go back to just 101 health. Now, I'm so sensitive, I can't use that. When I put in earbuds, I get dizzy and almost fall down. So I'm I've always been the canary in the coal mine with all of this stuff that I don't use high def things. I have all my controls on low. Like I'm just sensory aware. Like if I go into a superstore with lots of TVs and different things, it's just, I cannot fathom how people can stand in that all day. Like I have a few minutes and I'm like, I'm out, gotta go. And so, but a lot of people are very oblivious to not only the bombardment on the nervous system, but the suppression of your immunity. Hello. So it is very relevant in these other ways, but also again, that kind of quality of life. And I heard something the other day that was saying the new wealth trend is going into wellness, and it is going in, instead of being like outwardly flashy, it is that kind of quiet, like you have a space to meditate, you have a space. And I thought, wow, this is finally where people are realizing, wow, this priority is not a cool trend. This is really first of all, for survival, but it's also this, it's very promising if more begin to kind of turn into this, to just change the trajectory of the overconsumption in and of itself.
Yeah. It's so true. It was bad, a trend, that health is wealth, and but now it's people aren't doing it because of that. It's like they have to take care of themselves on the basic level to feel okay, because we are so overloaded and our nervous systems are also affected. That is like, I'll just breathe. Okay, I'll just do some yoga. Okay, instead of
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm going to yoga class. It's like, okay, I have to do yoga.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Really important information and things to consider and for people to know. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. Is there anything else that you want to share that's important about what's happening in the world, the energetics, about what people need that we
You
haven't
know,
covered?
one of the things I'd love to share is something I sit with every day, but I send it on the inner planes, but it's being able to connect to the high integrity love light of the family of light on the inner planes in your meditation, but also to really ask to be the light of grounding global peace, to
Mm,
be the light of grounding divine justice
mm,
globally, being the light to remove between corporations, businesses, political, what have you, those that are just misusing power or in harm's way are just removed, and benevolent conscious leaders and conscious
mm,
spaces are coming in their place, but also the misappropriated funds and all of the funding of that is also returned to the people.
mm,
To me, even just like conventional farming, it's like you're using poisons
mhm,
on this. This, I don't know how this is legal. That to me, like, let's rehabilitate our
mhm.
land. I think I heard there were 30 food things that in the US are illegal in most other
Yeah.
countries.
Yes.
And, being able to return to the just basic awareness of, because to me, that turns into insanity at that point. So being able to rehabilitate that,
Mm,
not fight it, rehabilitate
right.
that, to come in
Yeah.
compassionately and say, no, 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 we're going to do regenerative techniques to this. We're not going to monocrop. We're going to actually restore this to regenerative land and bring back what needs to be here, or what land needs for
Mhm,
this for the, and the more we're seeing this and we're really flowing energy to the outcome, not the loud noise of the fight in the moment,
yeah.
but beyond the duality of the, new earth, like conscious unity thriving. That is actually, those quantum particles are going into every single one of those. The
Mm,
new coalitions can show up, the new, that funding, that when systems change over, it's gonna be very interesting in a very good way
mm,
of where, because we're gonna move into that heart coherence creation, and the heart coherence is instantaneous manifestation. So the more we're aligned and beginning to open that, we are going to, from many different timelines, all of our gifts more so are gonna go into just incredible spaces, and that's part of, it's already here, but to me, the more people that can sync with that and flow energy to
mhm,
it, it just speeds up the old kind of being tanking out and falling away, and the new coming in very beautiful in a seamless way behind it. That's what my focus is. Like, how do
yeah.
we have the effortless transition?
What is that timeline? Do you have a sense for that?
Well, there's so many, which is why it's so crazy, because within a day you can watch news and go into a lower one, and then you can, you can feel it even when
Mhm,
you're looking at different things. And so I've learned, okay, when you feel that, be sure to step out of it, because if
uh-huh,
you're pushing, you're gonna go on a fast train in the direction you don't want,
mhm,
but also to lift in and be like, okay, let me pivot into, here's the way I want to see it. Here's the
mhm,
way, no, 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 no more. Like, that's enough. And thank you so much, universe. We're not having to fight it. The universe is coming in to change it.
yeah,
And so the more we're flowing with that, and we're kind of being the difference, that's that algorithm interrupt too.
mhm.
Then it's like that rising becomes the new, that is the new.
Be the change you wanna see in the world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. It's how can you be embodied, the embodied light, and to connect to the other embodied lights. Is this someone who's embodying light or not? And, where, just to know that there are that you are going in that way. Like this is not how you want to live. I've had
Yeah,
enough.
yeah,
This is how I want to live. This is what I want for the world. This is
yeah.
yeah.
Well, and think about the millions now, if you look at it globally, of like all the activism politically, socially, on all these different issues. And there are people in that doing it. There are people absolutely like, we're going to flow the change. But there's just as many, if not maybe a little bit more, that are fighting to be right.
It's too
We're
much
right.
fighting. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's in the push and pull, and unfortunately, that perpetuates more.
Yes.
And I love, Mother Teresa said, "I will never do a war rally. I'll never like walk in a war protest, but I
Mhm.
will be first in line in a peace rally."
Yeah.
And so, being that, like, let's be where we're intending to go, and let's only be that
Yeah.
then it's flowing very different. But there's so much conditioning, there's so much programming, and there's so many other lifetimes where we were in a million wars and we were in a million different situations where we felt like the fighting was caring or the fighting
Yeah.
was like making the change when actually it was perpetuating it.
Yeah.
And when we can move into, okay, I want to be this difference. And even going back to the Atlantean one, it's like, let's be this difference, not this radical tech war, and really let that radiate and really emit a signal
Mhm.
that this other one can't stay, just collapses from
Yeah.
it. That's the algorithm interrupt too. Like,
Mm.
let's be this where everything that's not that can't exist.
Yeah. Well, if anyone is having a hard time being that and being empowered and feeling empowered, then book a session with Kathleen Miller. How do they book, and what do you suggest for
Yeah,
people in working with
absolutely.
you? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. My site is intuitivelifestylesuccess.com, and I'm on most of the social media channels. It's under Intuitive Kathleen Miller, and my name is with a C, but really Intuitive Lifestyle Success, that is pretty easy to find there. And then I have lots of resources and different things on there too.
I love that the name that you chose so long ago is so appropriate, especially everything that we talked about, today is the intuitive lifestyle success.
Yeah.
And the success really, moving away from the financial success, but really the wellness, the vibrational wellness for
Yeah,
everyone.
absolutely. Well, and to me, success is about thriving in all those ways, in
Mhm.
all these levels, because success is an interesting word. I remember, I think somebody was saying, even Success Magazine was like thinking about rebranding like their word because success has got like this negative connotation to it. And I thought, wow,
Mm,
that is making success wrong instead of, the truth thriving. And like any word doesn't matter, it's the intention behind it. And
mm,
so really looking at what is into, like, if we can move into our own personal intuitive awareness and then live that to the fullest in our own, the lifestyle of flow that is so unique to us, that thriving that comes from that's really was the intention behind that.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah. So to live from our intuition, so
Mhm.
our life is aligned. And that is really what creates success in all areas of our life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all of your wisdom today for everyone. What you're seeing and what is needed and where we're going is really helpful. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you so much,
Yeah.
Alicia. It's been such a gift, and
Yeah.
so interesting to be leapfrogging and kind of going through life side by side, and
Mhm.
just being able, it makes me appreciate the process. And I love seeing you down the road a little ways, like, oh, I'm eager to get to the other side to have some more relief. I mean, I'm grateful in the moment, but and again, for listeners, no matter where you are, it's always kind of in flux. It's so fascinating.
Mhm.
And that's the gift of it all too.
Yeah. And to be okay with it and know you're okay.
Yeah,
And there is support for you, when you're struggling too. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, Kathleen, for being here. Thank you for being such a powerful support in my life through all of the
Wow.
transitions and continued transitions that we'll go through, I'm sure, as well.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you all for being here with us. And remember to follow the resource vibe for trusted support and share the vibe. See you next time.